All right, understanding indices. So what an indice is pretty much just a standard value that we look at in statistics. So a statistical index is a number or weighted mean that is used to show how the individual statistics or components of an index have changed as a whole. Pretty much it's just looking at a value and seeing how it has changed over time. So most indices are based around a value of 100. Just makes things easier to look at. Now the Consumer Price Index. This is very popular because it talks about consumer goods and services. So it's a measure of things from milk to telephone services to internet and pretty much what the price is doing over a number of years. Now when we're looking at this, we're basing it around 100, 100 being 100%. So each item is giving a weighting factor and kind of goes through what the CPI is here. Now, the graph here shows the CPI from 1990 up until around 2006. So we're going to use that to answer different questions. Now, right in the question it says the graph shows the CPI of the weighting factors for 2002. What that means, and it's actually the answer to our first question, what is the base year for the CPI? It's the starting value of our CPI. Because this is a graph from 2002, it's saying that in 2002 we're at 100%. Okay? So in what year was the cost of the basket of goods about 90% of the base cost? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at 90%. We're going to go across to the year. And we notice that it is just before 1998. So probably 1997. So between 96 and 94, or sorry, 94 and 98. Probably right in here would be 97, because that would be 96. What is the CPI in 1990? So you're going to look at 1990, and you're going to see that it's about 78%. Now what that means is that in 1990, goods and services were about 78% of the price they are now, so 22% less. And that's the answer to this. Now describe the change of the CPI from 90 to 91. So right here at the very start. Now if you notice, the slope of the graph right there is very, very quick. What that means is that goods and services increase in price very quickly between 1990 and 91 and then kind of leveled out, and you can see that they do go up every year significantly, but not near as much as they did right at the very start. So it means it increased fairly quickly. What do you notice about this line segment? So we've kind of just talked about that. Describe the overall trend, and we talked about that. The overall trend is an increase. This means that Canadians continue to pay more items as the years progress. It's also called inflation. This is showing us the inflation of our economy, that all of our prices are going up as we go through the years. Calculate the average annual rate of inflation from 1990 to 2006. Now the way we're going to do this is we look at the CPI. We've gone from about 78 all the way up to about 109. So we're going to look at that. So the CPI increased from 78 to 109. That's an increase of 31. We've done this from the year 1990 to the year 2006. That's 16 years. So we take our increase and we divide it by our number of years. And this is done in percentages, these increases. So then this says that therefore we have a rough average inflation of 1.9% per year. Okay, this is another way that you can look at indexes. So rather than looking at an index for a specific item, you can look at an index for different cities or different countries and how the prices are influenced. So looking at this, so some indices do not show change over time. Instead, they kind of look at geographical regions. So in 2006, UBS pricing and earnings included a comparison of clothing prices in 71 cities. The base price was New York. So New York is 100%. So that's our base. which cities have an index values less than 100? All we're going to do is look for those cities that are less than 100. So Dublin, Toronto, Rome, Hong Kong, and Delhi. Those cities are all less than 100. That's the answer to our first question. Well, what does this mean? This means that you would pay more for clothing if you lived in, or sorry, you would pay less, excuse me, for clothing. That should be, that should be less. Less. Slow. For clothing, if you lived in the cities in Part A, than you would if you lived in New York. Compare the clothing price from Zurich and Hong Kong to the clothing prices in New York. All we have to do for this is actually not too hard, is we look at the CPI for Zurich minus away that 100%. So it's 15.6. So this means that people pay 15.6% more in Zurich than they do in Hong Kong. Likewise, and I'm always putting the bigger number first, the CPI for New York and the CPI for Hong Kong, 100 minus 75. So people pay 25% more in New York than in Hong Kong for the same clothing. You're going to work on your worksheet numbers 1 to 7 and just don't do number 4, so excluding number 4.